Good morning, ma'am. I am the last reporter of Group 10. If the Philippines must remain under the control of Spain, they will necessarily have to be transformed in a political sense of the course of their history and the needs of their inhabitants will require. This we demonstrated in the preceding article. We also said that this transformation will be violent and fatal. It proceeds from the ranks of the people, but peaceful and fruitful. If it emanates from the upper classes. Some governors have realized this truth and impelled by their patriotism have been trying to be introduced needed reforms in order to forestall events, but notwithstanding all that have been ordered up to the present time, they have produced scanty result for the governments as well as the country. Even those that promise only a happy issue have at times caused injury for the simple reason that they have been based upon unstable grounds. We said, and once more we repeat and will ever assert that reforms which have a palliative character are not only ineffectual but even pre- prejudicial. When the government is confronted with evils must be cured natically, and were we not were we not convinced of the honesty and rectitude of the same governors, we would be tempted to say that all the partial reforms are only plaster and salvage of a physician who, not knowing how to cure the cancer and not trying to thought it out, tries is this way to alleviate the patient's suffering, of temporize with the cowardice of timid and ignorant. All the reforms of our liberal ministers have been, are, and will be good when carried out. When we think of them, we are reminded of the dieting of Sancho Panza in his Bataria Islands. He took his seat at a sumptuous and well-appointed table covered with fruit and many varieties of food, differently prepared, but between the rich mouth and each dish by physician Pedro Rizio interposed his one saying, take it away. The dish removed, Sancho was as hungry as ever. Through it is that the despotic Pedro Rizio gave reasons which seem to have been written by Cervantes, especially for the colonial administrations. You must not eat, Mr. Governor, except according to the usage and custom of other islands where there are governors. Something was found to be wrong with each dish. One was too hot, another too moist, and so on, just like our Pedro Rizos on both sides of the sea. Great God did his cocks kill do Sancho. In the case of our country, the reforms take the place of the dishes. The Philippines are Sancho. Well, the part of the quackization is played by many persons interested in not having the dishes touches, perhaps that they may themselves get this benefit of them. And the result is that the long-suffering Sancho of the Philippines misses his liberty, rejects all governments, and ends up by rebelling against his quackization. Ini hahalintulad ang pagbagong isinisagawa ang mga pagbabagong isinasagawa ng Pilipinas sa ilalim ng pamahalaan ng mga Espanya ay hindi sapat at mababaw lamang. Gumagamit ito ng mga dalawang pagtutulad upang ilarawan ang punto. Hahalintulad nito ang Pilipinas kay Sancho Panza ang palaging gutom na kasama ni Don Quixote. Si Sancho ay palaging binibigyan ng pagkain at ngunit hindi ito angkop sa kanyang pangangailangan kaya't nananatili siyang gutom. Gayon din naman ang Pilipinas, palaging binibigyan ng mga pagbabago ngunit hindi ito angkop sa tunay na pangangailangan ng bansa kahit nananatili itong may problema. Ang pagtutulad sa isang manggagamot na pandaraya, inihahalintulad din ito ang mga pagbabagong isinisagawa ng paggamot ng isang mga manggagamot na pandaraya na naglalagay lamang ng pantakip sa sugat ng pasyente nang hindi inaayos ang pinagmulan ng sakit. Ito ay nagpapakita na ang mga pagbabago ay hindi nakakaabot sa pinagmulan ng mga problema ng bansa. Ang pangunahing argumento ng teksto ay ang pangangailangan ng malawakan at radikal na pagbabago sa Pilipinas, hindi lamang ang mga mababaw na pag-aayaw. Sinasabi nito ang kasalukuyang sistema ang malalaking depekto at tiyak na mabibigo kung hindi ito aayusin. Ipinapahihiwatig din ito kung hindi gagawin ang mga kinakailangan pagbabago, magkaroon ng malawakang kaguluhan ng bansa. In like manner, so long as the Philippines have a liberty of press, have no voice in the courts to make known to be government and to the nation whether or not merits the minister then who wants his reforms to be reforms must begin by declaring the press in the Philippines free and instituting Filipino delegates. The press is free in Philippines because their complaints rarely ever reach the peninsula, very rarely, and if they do, they are so secret, so mysterious that no newspapers dares to publish them, or if it does reproduce them, it does not tardily and badly. A government that rules a country from a great distance is the one that has the most need for a free press, more so even than the government of the home country if it wishes to rule rightly and fitly. The government that governs in a country may even dispense with the press if it can, because it is on the ground, because it is eyes and ears, and because it directly observes that what it rules and administers. But the government that governs from afar absolutely requires that the truth and the facts reach its knowledge by every possible channel, so that it may weigh and estimate them better, and this need increases when a country like the Philippines is concerned, where the inhabitants speak and complain in a language unknown to the authorities. To govern it any other way may also be called governing, but it is so governed badly it amounts to pronouncing judgment after hearing only one of the partners if it's steering a ship without reckoning its condition, the state of the sea, the reefs and shoals, the direction of the winds and currents it is managing, watching the money chase without house by endeavoring merely to give it polish and fine appearance, without watching the money chase, without looking after the servants and the members of the family. But routine is a declivity down which many governments slide, and routine says that freedom of the press is dangerous. Let us see what history says. Uprising and revolution have always occurred in countries tyrannize over its countries when human thought and the human heart have been forced to remain silent. If the great Napoleon had an tyrannized over the press, perhaps it would have warned him of the peril into which he was hurled and have made him understand that the people were weary and the earth wanted peace. Perhaps his genius, instead of being dissipated in foreign aggrandizement, would have become intensive in laboring to strengthen his position and thus have assured its Spain herself records in her history more revolutions when the press was gauged what herself records in her history more revolution when the press was gauged what colonies have become independent while they have had a free press and enjoyed liberty. Is it pre- preferable to govern blindly or to govern with ample knowledge? Someone will answer that it colonies with a free press, the prestige of the rules, rollers, rollers, the trap of false governments will be greatly imperiled with. We answer that the prestige of the nation is preferable to that of a few individuals. A nation requires respect not by abetting and concealing but abuses by revoking and isang malayang pamamahayag para sa isang malusog na pamahalaan at panganib ng pagsupil dito ipinaliwanag ito sa ang teksto ay ang malayang pamamahayag ay isang tanda ng isang mahusay na pamahalaan. Ang teksto ay nagsasabi na ang mga pamahalaang may takot sa malayang pamamahayag ay karaniwang mga masamang pamahalaan. Ito ay dahil ang malayang pamamahayag ay nagsisilbing cheque at balansi sa kapangyarihan na pamamahalaan na naglalantad ng mga katiwalian at pag-aabuso. Ang pagsupil sa papahayag at nagdudulot ng mga kaguluhan. Ipinapaliwanag na ang pagtatangka ng pamahalaan sa supilin ang pamamahayag ay kadalasang nagreresulta sa mas malaking kaguluhan. Ito ay dahil ang mga mamamayan ay walang ibang paraan upang ipahayag ang kanilang mga hinaing. Ang halimbawa ni Napoleon, ginamit ang halimbawa ni Napoleon upang ipakita kung paano ang pagsupil sa pamamahayag at maaaring humantong sa mga revolusyon. Ipinapakita nito na ang pagbibigay ng kalayaan sa pamamahayag ay mahalaga upang maiwasan ang mga kaguluhan. Sa kabuuan, ang teksto ay nagpapahayag na ang malayang pamamahayag ay isang mahalagang bahagi ng isang malusog na demokrasya at ang pagsupil dito ay isang tanda ng isang mapang-aping pamahalaan. Ang pagbibigay ng kalayaan sa pamamahayag ay mahalaga upang matiyak ang pananagutan ng pamahalaan at maiwasan ang mga kaguluhan. Punishing them the moreover to this prestige is applicable what Napoleon said about great men and their valets, we who endure and know all the false pretensions and pretty persecution of those sham gods do not need a free press in order to recognize them. They have long ago lost their prestige. The free free press is needed by the government which still dreams of the prestige which is built upon mined ground. We say that the same about the Filipino representatives. What rests does the government see in them? One of three things: either that they will unruly become political trimmers of or act properly. Supposing that we should yield to the most absurd pessimism and admit the insult great for the Philippines but still greater for Spain, that all the representatives will be separatists, and that in all their conten- contentions they will advocate separatist ideas. Does not a patriotic Spanish majority exist? There not present there the vigilance of the governing powers the combat and oppose such intentions, and would not this be better than the discontent that females and expand in the secrecy of the home, in the huts and in the field? Certainly, the Spanish people does not spare its blood where patriotism is concerned, but would not a struggle in a principles in a parliament be preferable to the exchange of shoot in swampy lands 3,000 leagues from home in impenetrable forests under a burning sun or amid torrential rains? These specific struggles of ideas, besides being a thermometer for the government, have the advantage of being cheap and glorious because the Spanish parliament especially abounds in oratorical paradigms and invisible in debate makeover. Moreover, it is it is said that the Filipinos are indolent and peaceful. Then what need the government fear? Has hasn't it any influence in the elections? Frankly, it is a great compliment to the separatists for separatists to fear them in the minds of the cortes of the nation. If they became political trimmers, as is to be expected, and as they probably will be, so much the better for the government, and also so much the worse for their constituents. They will be a few more favorable votes, and the government could laugh openly at the separatists if any there be. If they become what they should be, worthy, honest, and faithful to their trust, they will undoubtedly annoy an ignorant or incapable minister with their questions, but they will help him to govern and will be some more honorable figures among their representatives of the nation. Now then, if the real objection of the Filipino delegates is that they smell like egorots which so disturbed in open synthate that doughty General Salamanca din, Don Senebaldo de Mas, who saw the egorots in person and wanted to live with them, can affirm that they will smell or worse like powder, and Senor Salamanca undoubtedly has no fear of that odor. And and if this were all, the Filipinos who in their own country are accustomed to whatever they, when they become representatives, may give up such a dirty costume at least during the legislative session, so as not to offend the delicate nostrils of the Salamancas with the odor of the bath. Ang teksto ay nagpapahayag na pag-aalinlangan at pagiging pesimistiko sa posibilidad na tunay na pagbabago ng Pilipinas sa ilalim ng pananakop ng Espanya. Narito ang mga pag-aalinlangan sa mga may pag-aalinlangan sa kakayahan at integridad ng mga Pilipino, kinatawan sa pamahalaan. May pagdududas na sila ay tunay na naglilingkod sa interes ng Pilipino at maaaring maimpluwensyahan o masunurin sa mga Espanyol. Pagiging pesimistiko, ipinahahayag ang pesimismo sa posibilidad ng tunay na reforma. Ipinapaliwanag na ang mga Espanyol ay may malaking kapangyarihan at mahirap labanan. Ang mga pagbabago ay tila imposible dahil sa makapangyarihang mga Espanyol. Kakulangan ng mga tunay na presentasyon. Binibigyan din ang mga kakulangan ng tunay na presentasyon sa mga Pilipino na sa pamahalaan ang mga kinatawan ay hindi tunay na kumakatawan sa mga interes na pangangailangan ng mga Pilipino. Kawalan ng tiwala. May kawalan ng tiwala sa sistema ng pamahalaan at ang mga opisyal nito. Ito ay dahil sa katiwalian at kawalan ng pananagutan ng mga opisyal. Mga hamon sa pagbabago. Tinalakay ang mga hamon sa pagbabago at ang mga dahilan kung bakit mahirap makamit ang tunay na pagbabago. Ito ay dahil sa makapangyarihan na ng mga Espanyol at sa kultura ng katiwalian at kawalan ng tiwala. Sa madaling salita, isang sitwasyon kung saan ang mga Pilipino ay kulang ng tunay na kapangyarihan at presentasyon sa kanilang sariling bansa.